just lay it right in the net, right in the water. Well, time for another fishing report. And once again, I'm still down on the bottom on the Douglas and Salmon run. I think down in here somewhere Tyler's working through this run with an egg pattern, looking for a steelhead. What we have here is the meadows, and it's filled in with gravel, so it's really shallow. So all this rift water's turned into spawning habitat, and it's full of spawning salmon. And what we're doing is we're kind of drifting eggs around them, trying to see if a steelhead will be up partaking on the stray eggs. I kind of half-jokingly recall this as kind of like the Egg McMuffin bar. And steelhead love Egg McMuffins as much as I do, so very often that can be a good place to look for a steelhead. And that's exactly what's been going on. Is we're still getting a lot of quality salmon, but about half our salmon in the river now are in full spawn. So it's a lot of ratty fish, so you got to really pick and choose where you fish for your salmon. A lot of time now I'm not as much into the holding pools. I'm looking for choke points, pinch points, so the fish are actively moving, trying to get into that better quality fish. And we're still finding some really good fish and some fairly fresh fish. So that's still going on with the salmon, but also mixed in is some pretty respectable numbers of steelhead this past week we've been seeing finally catching. So we're finally getting into the steelhead fishing right on time, middle of November. We're finally doing a steelhead gig. I suspect we're going to still see some pretty strong numbers of salmon for coming into the river for probably another week or two. This low water, which we're at, 185 by the way, the water's low, is kind of slows down these runs, and so they just kind of trickle in. The other thing to keep in mind is as of shooting this video, this report, we're due tomorrow, the next few weeks, upcoming week, to be a pretty wet week. However, I suspect that it's going to be more maintenance than anything else. So it's just, don't expect to see a lot of, water. That rain's not going to have any real effect on us. So that's, it's just enough to make things wet, unfortunately. They're talking like an inch and a half of rain. We need 5 or 6. But anyways, that's what it is with the water. The water's been down in the mid-50s, low 50s. So the temperatures are great, which makes the steelhead just really hot. We're finding a lot of our steelhead in fast water. We're definitely staying away from, for the steelhead, those holding pools, those classic holding pools I was fishing for salmon. Well, it's still so full of salmon, those steelhead are just getting pushed out, and they're just not sitting in there, or they're moving through really fast. So we're not picking up a lot of steelhead in the holding pools. So we're usually going to those migrational pinch points. Unfortunately, that hurts the swing game, because they just get crammed in those holding pools, and those steelhead are not comfortable, so they just kind of keep moving and find pocket water, something away from the Chinooks, unless they're in there chasing around for eggs. Which means then we got to, while fishing for those, we got to put up with some spawning salmon. So that's pretty much what the salmon gig is. Like I said, the steelhead they're right on time. We're doing very well, and so yeah, it's definitely a lot of steelhead we're getting in the lower river down to the Douglas, and I'm finding them all the way up through the whole entire Douglas and salmon. In fact, the upper part of the run is fishing better than the bottom part of the run. I think that has a lot to do with you get into those pocket waters, and those steelhead and get away from the salmon. I think that's what's going on with that. The rest of the river, there are Chinooks all the way through the system, right up into the upper fly zone. If somebody wants to find salmon, where do you go? Just find the river, you'll find salmon. As for the steelhead, they're slowly creeping their way up, so if you're a mid-river fisherman, you should be seeing them by the time you see this report. You should start to find the front end of this jag of steelhead that we've been experiencing the last few days. And it won't take too long for them to get up into the upper fly zone. Once these fish get moving, steelhead move fast, so probably, by the time you watch this, they're probably reaching the upper fly zone, so you should start to find them up there. And your biggest annoyance is there's a lot of salmon in full spawn, but still, if you're up there, just fish egg patterns and just work through the little slots and pockets and see what you can find. You should find a few steelhead up in there. And those numbers should be picking up pretty steadily all through the river over the next few days. So overall, there's this fish all through the system. Just we're dealing with low water. We're in full spawn, so there's a mix of very rough-looking, sword-looking salmon that are about ready to die to some new arrivals. With the salmon, as for the steelhead, they're classic. They're shiny. They're chromy. They're hot. We're having a heck of a time hanging on to them. Having a heck of a time getting tight on them. So we're just losing a lot of fish just on eat because they're explosive. So they're fun. So that's kind of what's been going on with all that. I was going to have a rod here to show everybody, but really we haven't changed much with our equipment. With the spey rods, like the 12.5 foot, 13 footers, I'm using this Scandy system with some like a 3.9 or a 5 10 foot poly leader. That's been working really well. I haven't really made a good solid dialed in on the swing game for the steelhead, as I mentioned, yet. Because we're fishing a lot of egg patterns, we're probably going back to a Skagit on our switch rods, our 11 foot, 12.5 foot switch rods. We're going back to a Skagit setup, a long leader, and we're running indicators. I call them drift management devices, and a lot of it is it allows us to get that fly right down the slot, right in the pocket precisely. We can be a little bit more precise, get a good clean drift, not get hung on the bottom as much. So there's a lot of line controlled, drift management we can do with an indicator, and we're using a lot of egg flies. So right now, geez, my flies are escaping. It's breezy. I got them laid out to show you, and gotta find one. Oh, they're escaping. Got them. So the light's not too good, so I'll do the best I can with the camera. Kind of show off what we're using for flies. First and foremost, we've been racking up our steelhead body count on. You can see that. It's not really a focus job, but it's a classic size, and I use this 8s. It's an Estaz, orange Estaz. We call them egg beaters, tied with a veil. That's been my go-to egg fly. There's a lot of fresh salmon eggs in the system, so these fish are getting keyed in, and when those eggs first go in, they're orange, so they get really keyed on orange. So my main producer right here is a purple egg sucking leech, and if any of you know me, I don't do too well with purple. I'm doing well with purple this year. Normally I can't catch a cold with it, but here again, this theme with an orange head on it. This is tied a little bit of Estaz, and I think I even used a little bit of UV Estaz on it, and the fish really like that. The next one, sometimes in the middle of the day when it gets really bright out, I've been going back to the standard black, but you see I'm still staying with the orange head because I think these steelhead are really keyed in onto that orange AK fresh salmon eggs that are rolling around all over the place. The salmon we're early in the spawn, so these unfertilized eggs haven't had a chance much to bleach out yet. And of course, this thing is still showing its true colors. A bunch of fish on that. And that little purple and Cherie zonker, as you all know. And starting to really do well with the hot bead buggers. That's got, once again, I'm staying with the orange. It's a 6. I like these things if I gotta get down to some deep water fast, or I want to swing through some pockets. This has been a really good option. Same thing with the leeches. They've been really good. Once again, come back to this guy. I'm not weighting them. So a lot of times in this low water, I want an unweighted fly, so it kind of drifts over the top. And these are 4s. I've been running my leeches on 4s. The nice thing about an unweighted fly, they'll seem to ride the current over the rocks instead of slamming into them with like a beadhead would. And since we're not having too much trouble getting our flies down in this skinny water, it's nice to run an unweighted fly. So that's kind of what's been going on. That's pretty much it. Unfortunately, I don't have a switch rod to show off, but just pretend this is a switch rod. Same rig, same setup we've been using right along, except because of our throwing over indicators and a little bit of shot. And we've been kind of drifting back off the scanning lines, going back to the Skagit, more because it's easier for a lot of my guys to cast that Skagit with the inventory over the scannies. A couple of quick notes. A bunch of you have stopped and said hello to me and introduced yourself that watched the YouTube channel. Thank you. It's good to meet you. It's good to chat with you. I know a couple of you guys have been kind of in a hurry and I couldn't really visit much. I just said thanks, moved on. water, get fishing. So a little bit of that going on, so I apologize if I was a little short. But other than that, it's good to meet everybody. The steelhead are rolling. We're having some decent numbers. Things are looking good with the steelhead fishing. The salmon are still coming in. They're still trickling in like they have been. There's some good looking salmon still yet to be had. And once again, folks, for you that guys like to fish up in western New York, Oak Orchard's got some fish in it, and that's fishing. I don't know if there's any browns in there or not. It'll be a little bit early, but they're definitely due. Oak gets some canal water supplementation, which helps out with the flows there too. So everything's starting to pop off. So yeah, lots of fishing to be had. Hopefully the rain will help that we have a nice fishy wet week next week. See you on the water, folks. And she's back. This is Jay at JPEG Guides and Lost River Fishing. We are a year-round fly fishing catch and release guide service. We fish the Lake Ontario tributaries, and then during the spring and the summer we also fish the inland trout streams, classic dry fly fishing. During the heat of the summer we will do the warm water fishing for bass and pike. If you're interested in any of our outings or have any questions, please feel free to email us at fish@lostriversfishing.com. Hope to hear from you, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us.